Dial H number 11, written by China Maiville, art by Alberto Ponticelli. So last issue, we had the hero dial and the sidekick dial both being used by Roxy and Nelson, respectively. And then Roxy told Nelson, hey, do whatever you want to do. And they started making out. And then this issue continues on. Well, first we got a brief little glimpse over to Centipede, who he abducted the leader of the Church of the Dial and has basically been keeping him in a military place. And a bunch of soldiers come checking him, being like, sir, we're supposed to be in there with you. And he's like, right, sorry, come on in. And as he lets them in, he immediately holds them hostage and kills them, saying, okay, I need you to not be here, so I'm just going to take you out so I can focus on the Church of the Dial thing. And basically what they're having him do is they've hooked him up to this machine saying, we need you to pray really, really hard for our plans to work. But then we cut over to Nelson, who wakes up naked in bed, and he's like, oh God, did we do the thing? He looks over and Roxy's there. He's like, oh geez, we did oh God, what happened? And Roxy wakes up and just like, yes, we did it. We don't have to make this weird, Nelson. Let's just talk about it. But he's immediately like, oh, where's my other shoe? I got a thing. I got a doctor's appointment at the dentist. And as he reaches under the bed, he finds the dial, and he's like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to take the dial because it's my turn. I'm just gonna use it now. And so he flips the dial, and immediately seems to disappear. And Roxy's like, Jesus, all right. She puts on her headset, asks if Nelson can hear her, and all of a sudden there's this whooshing noise back and forth. And she's like, Nelson, what's going on? Are you a teleporter? What's going on? And we see a piece of paper. It keeps on getting more words written on it every time it goes past, saying, Roxy, help, I can't stop. And Roxy yells out for Nelson, like, Nelson, you can control this just like any other powers. Just think about it and stop. And then all of a sudden he stops, and we see Nelson has the costume and look of the Flash. So cutting back to Centipede, he's interrogating this priest, saying like, all right, here's an image of the exchange that you guys worship. What does this mean to you? And he's like, oh, well, that's heaven. It's like, okay, it's a land of possibilities, I agree, including war. As we can see, there's this war going on in the image between this group and this other group, dialers and whatnot. And as he basically elaborates, he's like, here's what I know. Here's what I think at the very least. The dialers are the warriors of the exchange. They hunt at the exile that they called O and the dials themselves. O was like the original dialer. These guys are going around using the dials in order to basically get them back. And there's this guy called the Fixer, who's the one who came out of the Abyss back at the end of issue 5 and took the dial that Ex Nihilo was using. And was able to use the Abyss as a door to get over there. And that's the end game that Centipede's working on, is to reopen that door to let out the Fixer again. At that point, Centipede gets a call from his commanding officer being like, okay, clearly we may have gone too far with this, Centipede. Was it the mask? Was the mask what sent you too far? But regardless, I need you to stand down. And he's just like, hey, all I'm trying to be is a real Canadian hero, And now I'm realizing, after everything that's said and done, I'm not a hero at all. So then we cut back to Roxy, and Nelson's just talking at super speed. He's like, oh my God, this is crazy. I can't believe it. This is so fast. This is so cool, whatever. And Roxy's lays down hey, if you're the Flash, what happened to the real one? And immediately Nelson is hit by this memory burst. I was in Iron Heights. They have Iris. I have to go stop Trickster. What is all this? And he's literally referencing Flash 18 and all the events that were happening at that point. And he's just like, you're right, I got to go find Flash. So he runs off to Central City, and he's looking for Flash everywhere. And he's like, I can't find him. He's not there. I am the Flash. The Flash is gone, and I am now him. And Roxy's like, I don't know what's happening. We've never dialed a hero that actually exists. And at that moment, a light bulb goes off in her head. She's like, crap, do you remember the Zero issue where there was a story of a dialer way back in prehistoric times? And rumor was she was killed by someone that she had dialed into, who was screaming about like revenge and whatnot. And Nelson realizes, like, are you kidding? We're stealing powers. That's what the dial does, is it steals powers from other superheroes for like what? How long has this been going on? What have we been doing? And Roxy's like, I don't know. I didn't think this was what was going on. I thought we were just generating heroes. And Nelson's worried, like, what was he doing when I stole his powers? Is he dead now? Did I kill the guy who is the Flash? And so he grabs Roxy, runs outside. They're just in the forest outside because he needs to clear his head. And he basically just starts tearing into Roxy, saying like, oh, hey, yeah, no, why don't you use the superhero dial? Maybe we can, or the sidekick dial. Maybe we could steal Superman's flight as he's flying over the Atlantic. And Roxy's kind of upset that he keeps on blaming her for this when she genuinely didn't know. Going back to Centipede, he's finally taken full advantage of the priest to the point where his brain and his whole body is literally melting in front of his eyes. And as such, the portal begins to open up, and Centipede sees the Fixer coming through. He's like, how did you call me? How did you open this gate? And he's like, look, use the dial, turn into a telepath, read my mind to know I'm telling you the truth. This isn't an attack. I know where there are more dials, and I can bring you to them, but we need to work as a team. So he turns into a telepath and reads his mind. But then they start talking about it. They're like, okay, and this is going back to Roxy and Nelson. All right, let's just walk through this. What does this mean? Like, Ex Nihilo was able to use the dial and take hero powers, but for some reason Centipede wasn't. Why is that? And they reason out that maybe Ex Nihilo, she was like true of heart. She genuinely thought she was a hero. But Centipede knows that he's a villain, and so it wasn't letting him dial, which means that this guy must be worse than that. So at that point, Nelson feels there's a vibration in the dial, something's going on, and he takes her all the way to the Rocky Mountains to get away from what's happening. But then, right on schedule, Centipede and the Fixer show up, and he recognizes Fixer as the shadow on the line, and so he goes to attack him. Absolutely can't. The Fixer's got way more abilities than he does, and he knows how to use them, so they run out as far as they can. They just keep on trying to outrun, but Fixer keeps on catching up until finally Nelson collapses and runs out of flash powers right outside of Sydney, Australia. And Roxy's like, you got to give me the dial. I can hopefully get something that'll get us out of here. And as they're about to change the dial over, Centipede steals it. And we see Fixer literally tearing the sky open like it was just a cloth. And he's coming after Nelson and Roxy. And that's the book. Okay, so I think because we read the Zero issue, it wasn't that much of a surprise that it's stealing powers. I feel like that's kind of the big twist of this book, is like, oh my god, they're realizing that they're stealing powers. But we already knew that, so it doesn't come as that big of a shock. But I do like the synergy it's got going on with Flash, because, yeah, this did all happen in Flash, like, 18, where he just lost his powers all of a sudden, and they said, check out Dial H to see what happened. I like that sort of, because these books are so different. Flash and Dial H, there's no reason they should work together, but they do in this way that just feels natural. So I really do enjoy that. Again, this book feels like mostly this specific issue, the explanation. The like, okay, we've discovered this new thing, and let's just logic it out to its reasonable conclusion. And then next issue is going to be the big bombastic action stuff. So I like when this book takes the time to have these little sit downs and say, here's how things work, because it's a confusing topic. And I only feel like these issues, the ones that sit down and talk about it, are the ones that get me interested more in the logistics of it. The how does this work? Why does this work? And I really do enjoy it. Makes the action that much more interesting when you know the rules going into it. So overall, I'm going to give this one I'll give it a 7.5. It's probably closer to a 7, but because it's just my cup of tea, it's the thing that I enjoy, I'm giving it that extra 0.5. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how we continue on. We only have I think 3-4 more issues of this. So we're coming to the end game, possibly with this being the beginning of our final battle. So I'm interested to see where it ends up, but I am definitely enjoying this book.